part of your evening to come learn a little bit about what's going on in District 214 and what some of our building needs are and where we are in the process of this conversation. My name is Scott Rowe. I'm the superintendent of High School District 214, and I could not be more proud to serve in this role in this wonderful district. I joined this district in 2023, so about almost halfway through my third year. And the course offerings and opportunities that we provide to our students, hopefully that you know, are second to none. I'm excited to share some of those details with you. But before I begin this evening, I kind of want to set the stage and introduce a few of my colleagues to just begin the conversation here this evening. When we get to the question and answer portion of the evening, there'll be two different spots where that will occur. Right after I walk through the different categories of what we're evaluating in this conversation, and then again we'll get to the Q&A portion after the financial potential. Yes, I see your hands, but I know it's warm in here. I just learned that last week they turned the air conditioner off for the season. So we had a variety show practice in here right before we came, so the teenagers filled the room with energy and then left some warmth behind. So, but you know, it's a school. This is how it goes. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Justin Attaway as our Associate Superintendent of Business in our business office, and then Mr. Chris Yulee is our Associate Superintendent of Operations. His office put together the assessment and worked with our architect partner to do that. And then Mr. Patrick Maggi, our Director of Community Engagement and Outreach, and also from our team, just introduce her, Ms. Kara Kendrick, who is our Associate Superintendent of Student Services. We also have a couple of our board members here, Board President Albert Kreutzer and board member Vicki Chung here this evening. So I appreciate your all's support this evening. So there's a handful of things I really want to cover to set the stage for the conversation tonight. Most importantly, I want to acknowledge a few elephants that are in the room with us. The first elephant is the economy, the state of the economy. I don't shy away from the fact that when we began this conversation, actually the district embarked on this assessment process was in the 2021-2022 school year. And when we received the assessment, it was actually in the fall of my first year here, in the fall of 2023 as it completed. Times were different. The economy today feels very uncertain. The state of our pocketbooks is uncertain, and I recognize that. And that's why this conversation is so important. So that way it really is a two-way discussion around two things. One, it's education of what's going on in our district and feedback from you on the priorities of the projects we need to tackle, whether it's a referendum occurs or not. We still need to tackle these projects in some way, shape, or form. And then the other side of the conversation is if additional resources are allocated, where's that level of comfort in the range that we have discussed for feedback? But I wanted to acknowledge that the economy things, it's not easy, it's challenging. I also want to acknowledge we live in Illinois. And in coming and living in Illinois, especially in the suburbs of Illinois, in Cook County, we pay high property taxes. And that's not something that any of us enjoy as residents of Illinois, but it brings the services that are a part of being residents in Illinois. I know that that's not easy, and I know that each year, especially this year, you received your tax bill, and it was reassessed in the triennial, and probably saw an increase. We'll be happy to discuss that with you, that it does not necessarily equate to higher school district taxes, but that's a different conversation. It is also the funding mechanism for how schools do bigger and different projects, is come to the community and ask for that additional support. And then finally, I wanted to acknowledge a conversation that's begun circulating, and it always does around school districts in the suburbs. It's fund balance, and what is the district's fund balance, and why aren't you using that fund balance? And there's a little story I want to tell about that, just so that we have a level set of information and communication. Our fund balance currently sits at about 47%. So that means that on June 30th, our fund balance was sitting at about $170-ish million. Okay, that does not mean, a school district's fund balance is not the same as a savings account that we have in our personal accounts. A fund balance is a moment in time when we are at 47%. So June 30th, when we've received the first installment of the tax bills, we sit at that 47 or about $170 million. And then with the second installment, We live on that money.
40% of what, please?
Of 100, which would be about $330 million. The Q&A session will be at the end of the presentation, sir, please. So that 47% fluctuates throughout the year, where we live on those funds until as that second installment comes in. We are in a situation now, we're always at a low point at about February. The low point in the year, we're not at 47%. We're not at 170 million. It's down actually much lower. And that first installment of the next year's taxes come, and the school district's fund balance works its way back up to that June 30th high. So the reality is, in today's situation, we talk about the rainy day fund. That's why you keep a fund balance. We are living in the rainy day fund moment. Our school district has a position paper. A couple of years ago, in 2012, following the Great Recession, they made a commitment to increase the fund balance to have that rainy day fund in case we're in a crisis. And since then, they've gradually built that up, and they hit that. They were at 51% at the beginning of last school year. And then we began intentionally spending that down on these projects. We updated that position paper to be at 40%, which is where our financial advisors, PMA, suggested we live. Because if our Cook County property taxes or bills are delayed, 40% gets us to about February if we had to liquidate them all. Well, unfortunately, we are in that situation today. You haven't received your second installment of your tax bill because of a technology and process error at Cook County. The impact that's having on all school districts is the crisis that we feared. Our working cash will be spent down in early January, and we are preparing to liquidate some of our investments in order to make payroll, keep the lights on, if those tax bills aren't sent. For you, as a taxpayer, if they're not sent by the end of December, then we're talking about the tax, the write-off that we all like if we have the ability to pay that before December 31st. So hopefully the county fixes their error, their process problem, and we're able to get those bills so that we can realize the interest income that we're hoping to, and we don't have to liquidate before it's ready. All right, on to the process in the night. I want to get one more thing out of the open and very clear. We are not asking for $850 million. We have not made a decision. We have not made a recommendation to the school board that we would like to seek a referendum. The school board has not approved a referendum. So we are not seeking an $850 million referendum. That $850 million number has come from a comprehensive assessment looking at every single corner and aspect of our schools of if we improved everything that our architect says needs attention at some point over the next 10 plus years, that's how much it would cost. As you'll see in my presentation, there are ranges, red light, green light, yellow light, of what needs attention immediately, what's on the horizon we need to really begin planning for, and what's in pretty solid condition right now. And it's all still encompassing in that $850 million. So I want to be very, very clear, that number is the total assessment. We have not made a decision. This process is genuine. We are genuinely seeking feedback from the community. We want to use this opportunity to educate. We've been talking about it at our board meetings for the better part of 2 years, but I recognize that hasn't come directly to you if you're not a regular viewer of our board meetings. We wanted to bring information and say, this is our current state. This is the facility improvement plan we have been working on and trying to build a path forward to renew our schools and ensure they're healthy and ready for our students. But we have not determined the right path. This process that we're in, there's the education phase, and now we're asking for feedback. What I'm going to ask of you tonight is as we walk through those 10 categories, and I'll explain a little bit about each of those categories, is help us prioritize where you place emphasis on our prioritization of those categories. Even if the answer is, I don't support any additional funding, which you'll have the ability to say, you still have an opinion on what we should be prioritizing on our work. And then the second aspect of this evening will be 3 funding categories. Those 3 funding categories don't have major significance other than if we wanted to do almost all of the list, We wanted to go midway, and we wanted to go, I say low, but $400 million is not low, and I don't take that lightly. It's a ballpark. If the feedback is, these are all off, then we go back to the drawing board and we narrow our focus on the priority list and continue the conversation, as there is a phase 3 that we'll need to engage in. All right, and then another question has emerged pertaining to this number, this assessment. And the question has been, what has the district done in the last 50 years? Well, I can tell you the district has done a lot in the last 50 years. The district has followed a 5-year facilities project planning process. And that means we would take every 5 years, they build out chunk of need, prioritize and plan the improvement process, and then communicate that plan with the school board, and then work off that plan. This is a process that's been happening since I think the early 90s or late 80s. And we're currently finishing one of those 5-year windows of time that started prior to my arrival and prior to Mr. Yuli's arrival. It ends in 2027, so one more summer of it. So all the projects that we're currently working on were on that list, and some from this assessment that we've begun pulling away to try and chip away at that list. So, and I'll show you in the presentation, the last 10 years, the district has spent almost $200 million of our annual budget each year on building upkeep for maintenance, repairs, as well as renewal. So I'll walk through the details, and then we'll have an opportunity to answer some of your questions and have a nice discussion. All right, for those of you that are maybe a little disconnected from District 214 and are here because of the number, District 214 is an exceptional place for students to learn. We are a center for academic excellence, and we are very, very proud of that. Our tagline is students come to District 214 to discover their future. The opportunities that we're able to provide our students are second to none. And we believe we have a recipe to help students maximize the 720 days that they have with us in high school, which isn't a whole lot of time. We are able to maximize that to give them opportunities to pursue their interest in the classroom, help define and decide where they may want to spend their time as a professional, whether that be the military, the workforce, a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. We have the academic pathways to help them maximize their ability in the classroom, and then also enjoy their time as a student outside of the school day. For co-curricular opportunities, for whether that be in the fine arts. There was a variety show practice here before we had this evening. They asked that I would give them a plug. So if you're interested in the variety show or a flyer here, come by and see some of our kids in action. We are a fine arts district, and I could not be more proud of what our students have the ability to do and showcase their talents. Athletics, we have a couple of football teams still in the playoff hunt. Our student experience in athletics is tremendous, offering every IHSA opportunity for them. Because we believe that learning is boundless, and we can offer them these chances to explore their interests and start to figure out who they are, and maybe more importantly, learn what they're not interested in, so they can save themselves and their family time and money in the pursuit of that beyond our doors. We pioneered the Career Pathways program that has taken off across the country, and we offer 40 different career pathways for our students to engage in. And what's beautiful about those pathways is dual credit is infused in them. I'll explain that a little bit more on the next slide. But something interesting that I had the ability to experience last month, actually, as I traveled with a group of superintendents to another state to see a really innovative school district. And that school district had built a tech campus to house their CTE program. CTE is Career and Technical Education. And at that separate innovation campus, they had this monstrous auto shop with partnerships with Discount Tire and Toyota, where they were working on a brand new Toyota Tacoma. They had an airport hangar where they had 5 airplanes and helicopters. They had a CNC machine in the manufacturing areas that had 3D printers to healthcare pathways and food service to the culinary arts. Kids came from all over this school district, of 56,000 kids, to come to this school for a couple of periods a day to do CTE. And I left thinking, that's cool, but District 214 has 40 career pathways, not 20, in all 6 of our high schools, so our kids get to learn alongside their classmates in their home school. It may not be the shiniest brand new high school, but it is the very best that this country has to offer in this realm and the aspect of learning. 700 career partners for our students to engage in internships, in job shadowing opportunities, in apprenticeships. Our kids build houses. They flipping a house in Mount Prospect that'll be on the market in May to help pay for the next house that we have in Rolling Meadows that'll begin next summer. And as I said, dual credit is infused in all of those pathways, as well as our AP courses, advanced placement courses. Advanced placement courses and dual credit courses, we have 92% of our kids graduate with some level of college credit. Whether they are pursuing college or not, they're experiencing the rigor of a college level coursework, and 47% of our kids are graduating with 15 college credit hours or more. What that does for our students is it shows them they can, which is huge. It shows them that they have the ability for post-secondary work, because no matter which direction they go with their career, there's likely going to be some level of post-secondary learning that must occur. And if we can help them offset the cost of that by not having to take on the elective debt, and they can just focus on the area of interest, then I think we're helping our students pave life beyond high school. And an incredible success rate. 15 college credit hours is the threshold where statistically you're more likely to finish your degree than to start and not finish. Our AP courses this last year, we had 84% of our kids that took AP courses score a 3 or higher, which means they were eligible for college credit. It's outstanding. The state average is 64%. We are extremely proud of this and the opportunities we're able to provide for our kids. And as one of the largest high school districts in the state of Illinois, our neighbor 211, I have 5 high schools, 500 or so kids larger than we are at the moment. Our students have access to tremendous opportunities. It may not be 5 or 6 airplanes in a hangar, but we have a great partnership with Chicago Executive Airport. We have a classroom there for our students to be able to earn dual credit with a great college partner in Lewis University to have some aviation experience. The Entrepreneurial App Showcase, or our national champions, the Shimmer and Shine, I believe was the name of their group. They won a national competition creating a business and getting it off the ground. All 6 of our comprehensive high schools are nationally recognized as Blue Ribbon High Schools. Most recently, Hersey had the honor in 2024, Prospect the year before that. All 6 of our schools are nationally recognized as outstanding institutions of education. We could not be more proud. We achieved this success while remaining one of the most fiscally responsible school districts. We have the 3rd lowest overall tax rate and the 2nd lowest expense per pupil and administrator salary of our comparable districts. And I don't share that statistic as a point of pride saying we don't do things exceptionally well. We are a well-resourced district. I'm not shying away from that. We pay our people very well because we want the best to put in front of your kids. But according to our comparables, we have ourselves in the conversation among the highest compensated and the most expenses per kid, but we're not at the top, just to be clear. I'm not shying away from that, but our tax rate is exceptional for this area. However, the conversation that we're here for this evening begins to shift into what our buildings need. Now, this is not intended to be a shock and awe type of a conversation. These are all real photos from our high school. I'll be very honest with you about where they are, and I'll walk through some of the pictures to give you an idea of what we're talking about. Our youngest building, the last time the district went out to referendum was 52 years ago, and that's Buffalo Grove High School. Our eldest building is Prospect, which was opened in 1957. Some of our buildings, we're having challenges. It's not a surprise. We have very large facilities. Challenges come with the territory, just as a homeowner. The photo on the right-hand side up here is actually a picture of Elk Grove and their gym from this summer, the beginning of August. We had a roof leak that brought some water down into the gymnasium. It popped up a new project that we had to tackle because some of the bleachers got warped by the water, unfortunately. As an example of the assessment that I spoke about at the beginning, the $850 million number that people have latched onto, It's a comprehensive assessment that looked at the site work to the architectural facility, the building envelope, mechanicals, which is the air conditioning and boilers, plumbing and electrical. And you see that heat map. Red means it needs to be addressed now. Yellow, it's nearing time. It needs some attention. You need to really start planning for it. And green, things are in pretty decent condition. Plan for the future. And what you can see is in each category how much each of those areas are based on that assessment. You'll see that what stands out is the mechanical, which is air conditioners, boilers, those are wholesale system changes. I'll talk a little bit about that. And now to a statistic of what has the district done. Just in the last 10 years, this is the expenses for our capital improvement planning each year since fiscal year 16. So just under $200 million, an average of almost $20 million a year. And you'll notice in the last 4 years, we've really beefed that number up, intentionally spending the fund balance down, trying to tackle some of these bigger projects. Some of those projects include Wheeling's air conditioning system repair and a shift to something called a building automation system. We call it BAS. And what that automation system allows us to do is it allows our technicians to control the HVAC online so that we can try and make small tweaks online so we can achieve a more equalized temperature in the building. Clearly what we're not feeling right now, but an equalized temperature in the building, we can achieve that through that building automation system. Allows us to control clean air intake into the building a lot easier. Some of the lessons we learned during COVID is the clean air intake becomes very, very important. Many of the classrooms that we have around the district are standard. They look like they did 30 years ago or when we were in school even. The top photo is a simple photo from one classroom in the district, just to prove our point. Those I call those one-armed bandits. The desks that you slide into. What I would say about them is the way we're shifting and heading in terms of classroom instruction, those become a little challenging to make the classroom flexible. Now, I put this on here because it's one of the categories that I'll talk about. This isn't the most pressing category, but it is a category worth sharing in true openness. Ideally, that would be collaborative seating, tables and chairs that are flexible and can be moved around. Because the type of instruction we're encouraging our teachers to utilize and helping train them to utilize is something called a rotation model. And a rotation model is where they work with us. It's like elementary instruction. If you remember your kids with small group, the teacher would pull a group of 4 or 5 kids together. And then there would be different stations that the kids would work on. Maybe independent study, maybe collaborating with a partner, maybe silent reading. But in a classroom, you can give them a number of different tasks. And giving that teacher the ability in a group of 20 or 30 students to work with a small number of them, because we're together for 85 minutes. We can't just stand in front of them and lecture the entire time. We will lose their engagement. And then the bottom is actually the room that we're in. That's the Rolling Meadows Theater. It's original to the building. It needs a facelift. It needs some lighting enhancements. It needs some sound improvements for our kids and the types of theater and productions that they're in. We've updated the seats and wrapped that, but it needs some bigger upgrades. It represents the theaters across the district. They're all in a very, this is actually one of the nice ones. This in Buffalo Grove are one of the larger and nicer ones. While making progress improvements, the support areas that I'll point out, we've tackled some of this at 2 of our schools and one coming this next school year. But this photo in particular, I referenced the doors that are outdated in ADA. The doors at the back of the room, many of the doors at Buffalo Grove as an example, they have a doorknob, not a handle. The ADA rules state a handle is handicap accessible. The knob creates a different level of challenge. So when we touch a space, we have to upgrade all of it. That's one of the areas we'd like to update. Not only for accessibility, but in how we service students nowadays. We're wrapping the whole child in terms of support and redesigning those student support spaces, where a dean, the counselors, the social worker, the psychologists are all there sharing an alphabet. What they do is they have weekly meetings on how their students are doing, the progress monitoring their students, whose attendance needs some attention or we need to call home, whose grades are slipping, and we need to begin intervening to keep them on track and really help them boost their ability in the classroom, their success level. Our fire alarm systems are out of date. That's a challenge. This is going to be in the safety and security category. We can no longer get the parts that we need to replace fire alarms. We have to have wholesale replacement. This is the Prospect boiler at the top. That's a 1957 boiler. They're huge. Later in the presentation, you'll see what the modern boilers look like. That not only are they more energy efficient, but it's time for us to start moving away. These parts are getting harder and harder to get for our custodial and maintenance teams to replace. When we touch these spaces, not surprising, our buildings were built from the 50s to the 70s. Asbestos is part of our reality. So that asbestos mitigation is needed each time we touch a space. And then some of the air conditioning units, this time they're reaching end of life. There's an electrical transformer in particular. We're doing electrical work across the district. This is just an example of one at Prospect that is of serious concern. Plumbing is aging, and sometimes, like happens over at Forest View in our offices on Mondays, today the water is a little bit brown until a couple hours after it runs through. Some plumbing replacements are needed. This is the pool. Underneath the belly of the pool at Wheeling, we had some condensation issues and ventilation problem in how that was constructed. And the moisture has caused a problem with the pool itself. So this will be addressed this coming summer. It's already a part of our project plan. But just a picture to kind of show some of the reality of what we're dealing with that most people don't see when you come into our buildings. Because our buildings, they look nice. Our custodial maintenance team does a tremendous job of maintaining and keeping our buildings in good working order, but some of the systems behind that first level of the walls need attention. And then cafeterias and kitchens. As you walk in, you saw the cafeterias out here. In an ideal world, we begin replacing some of those bench-style cafeteria tables with the discs. We can use that space for so much more, and would love to begin starting to replace them with more flexible furniture, tables, and chairs. But again, that falls in a much different category than mechanicals and infrastructure. Some of the parking lots need some attention. Not so much, they really can't be expanded. We're landlocked in almost all aspects of the district. But in terms of traffic flow, can we squeeze out a few more parking spaces, and can we maximize the flow to increase safety? If you're a Prospect parent, you'll notice as an example, or that student drop-off and the buses happen at the same place. We really would like to reroute that, and we'll need to construct another road in order to pull them around the building, if that's even possible, just as an example. And then you'll notice that if you look at that top photo on the right-hand side, at the bottom of the bleachers, you see this circular piece of concrete where it meets the asphalt. That's just an older style of connection. And we're shifting, it starts to, over time, it starts to pull away from the asphalt, creating a tripping hazard. That Elk Grove track there, there's a black, you see the black rim of the track right behind the hurdle there. It's about a 2-inch gap in terms of the height of the concrete in the track. It's a tripping hazard. That track is set to be replaced in the summer of 2027, so it's coming, but that's an example of some of the athletic field upgrades. It's not because we want to have the best athletic fields in the world, it's because we're addressing some of the safety concerns, or turf is the end of life. And speaking of athletic fields, we've had some questions that have come in over these last couple of weeks about the beautiful facility we built at Buffalo Grove. It was not about enhanced athletic spaces. That was the outcome. It was actually solving a water retention problem. There was the baseball team hadn't been able to play baseball in their baseball field in over 5 years because of a drainage issue. The baseball field was on the verge of ruin because the water would just pool. So what we did was we changed the water flow, and they installed a 5 million gallon drainage basin underneath the baseball field that'll solve that problem. So it's not just about athletic field upgrades, it's giving our kids access. And in the process, we gave them access to an auxiliary turf field there that now it's an instruction space for PE, as well as soccer and lacrosse, in addition to the football field. So we were solving the problem and improving the area while we touched that space. So our district takes great pride in not having gone to referendum in 50 years. And as I said at the beginning of the presentation, that doesn't mean our buildings have been neglected for 50 years. That just means that we are reaching end of life on some of the systems, and we can no longer find the replacement parts that are needed. It means we conducted this assessment to give us a lay of the land of what are we dealing with? What is in totality the need? So we can build a plan to responsibly address it. Some of the big items warranted a discussion with our community of if we're going to be able to address those in a reasonable amount of time, we just don't have the funding in our annual budget to be able to do this. So we wanted to engage in the conversation of is additional support supported by the community? And if so, to what extent? And if not, then we will go back and adjust our plan. So that's why we're here. And as I said at the beginning, this is about a genuine conversation. The feedback that you give us will shape the path that we go down, and it will adjust from phase 2 to phase 3. You'll notice a difference based on the feedback that we've received. The scientific phone survey that we conducted a couple of weeks ago, we had almost 600 people either call in or pick up that call whenever the phone rang. We needed 300 for it to be a scientific study. So we're really grateful that so many people did take that call and engage in the entire phone call. We've had over, I want to say we're over 1,500 people have taken the online survey so far. It closes tonight. Tremendous feedback. We're really grateful for that, and I'm eager to see those results. So this is the third community engagement session. We had 2 virtual meetings, one last Monday, one today at lunch, and then today, this evening here. So again, we're actively gathering that feedback in a genuine conversation. So I'm going to walk through the 10 potential categories. If you've taken the survey, you've seen them, but I'm going to add a little context to them and offer a little explanation. And then we'll walk through the 3 funding levels that, again, are just a snapshot of what's possible to gauge where the community is. And then that 4th option is no funding. All right, these are the categories that we'll walk through. I will explain it in detail, but STEAM, just so we're on the same page, is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. All right, category number 1, safety, security, and accessibility. We're looking to improve our facilities' fire alarms, as I mentioned earlier, as well as some of the ADA issues in our doors. I'll tell the story here. The top photo is the current reality in some of our schools. And there's nothing wrong with that door. It's an older door. It may be ADA compliant, but what it cannot do is handle the modern technology that we're trying to infuse into it. The bottom photo is another photo, actually, of a school door in District 214, and the black box to the right is one of our proxy card readers. And so staff swipe their badge to gain access to different areas of the building. In our ideal world, what we're trying to create is a really safe environment inside our buildings. And if we ever had to lock a building down because of some form of an intruder or an active threat, we can do that where the entire building is locked, just like that, saving the teachers the time from closing the door, locking the door as an additional step. Our external vestibules are already secure, where we feel very good about how the district is situated from a safety standpoint. But internally, this is the next step of where we'd like to go to ensure the ultimate level of safety inside our buildings. Cost estimate is $59 million across the district, not just for that feature, but that's one example of some of the safety features we're after. The primary there being asbestos mitigation as well as fire alarm replacement. Some of the classrooms is one of the options. You saw that photo on the top earlier. The photo on the bottom is not a photo of a District 214 classroom. It's an online rendering of what a collaborative learning space looks like. Those, you see students obviously sitting together. It's flexible, can be moved around as teachers need them to allow for instruction to occur. That $60 million estimate is not only is lighting, it's paint and classroom furniture. One of the options. May not be the top option, but it's an option. The STEAM spaces, again, as you see there, science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics. This category would cover science classrooms, modernizing our science classrooms. The table on top or the photo on top is a picture of one of our science classrooms. You know, the science classrooms are really heavy, like 150 or 200 pound tables with that black resin top. Remember those where you can conduct your chemistry experiments on? The bottom picture has those same quality tables, but it's flexible. the casters. A lot of times our science labs are broken up into two different spaces, a learning space and then a lab space. In these modern spaces, we can maximize all of that floor space where learning in the lab can happen in the same area. It creates a better learning environment. The arts, it would touch all of our art classrooms. Our art classrooms, many of them are original to the building. It's time for upgrade. And then all of our theaters. Again, we're in one of the larger theaters that we have, but some of our theaters have a greater level of need than this, although they're all original to the building and haven't really been touched too much. That cost estimate is about $75 million. Mechanicals. If you ask me, this is my top priority because the warmth and comfort in the building for our learning spaces is important in the area that I believe is the greatest risk for failure, our system's failure. The top photo is not an HVAC system, it's actually a generator. It's a generator at Prospect. If that were to fail and power goes out, the emergency lighting goes with it. We can't get parts for that anymore. That's one of the systems that needs to be replaced. And the bottom is that modern boiler system that I alluded to. You see how much smaller they are, they're much more energy efficient, which is actually one of the strategies that the district has been intentionally employing to, as we modernize our facilities, whatever we touch, it's going to have an energy efficiency component to it. Because we want to ensure that anything we spend on electricity is as little as we possibly can, so we can divert those dollars into the classroom. And then there are some incentives that are available when we go down this road that could help bring some of this cost down to some of these energy efficient HVAC systems. I want to say there's a couple of them that have been allocated to Illinois so that Illinois controls the dollars on where they go. So hopefully we'll be able to tap into that whenever we get to that point. Some of the infrastructure needs are the building envelope, the roof, the windows, the walls. There's a particular classroom at Elk Grove, they're not Elk Grove, Buffalo Grove, those single pane windows. We've replaced Elk Grove all in totality, double pane windows with the O'Hare Noise grant. But some of the classrooms have single pane and they frost in the wintertime. And it really makes it difficult to maintain the comfortable temperature inside the classroom. This is probably my second most highest priority, just because this is the dry portion, keeping our buildings dry from the water. And it's approximately $190 million need, updating all the roofs across the building. I mentioned energy efficiency already. We currently have a request for proposals out, seeking feedback on looking for a partner to help us with solar power. Looking to solar this building, as a matter of fact. We have about 37% of this building we can offset the energy use with some roof-mounted solar at Rolling Meadows. So we're hoping for a positive outcome to that. We'll see what happens. Pools is one category that we added, and I'll tell you the reason why we added this category. We needed to address Wheeling's pool. That must be addressed. It's scheduled for summer of 2026. But pools in this community, I'm learning about the history of the community, has been a very hot topic. There's a high level of interest in pools. And so we added this just to test to make sure, we have to address Wheeling, but is there a significant desire and need to place a pool at all of our buildings? Rolling Meadows and Hersey don't have a pool. We'll see what the feedback says, but I just wanted to explain to you, because this looks like we're looking for a luxurious ad. But there was a reason behind this. We're wanting to make sure a hot topic in the community is addressed and not completely ignored. But we still must address Wheeling's pool. The question was, do we just replace Wheeling's pool and fix what's there, or do wholesale replacement? But the ask, if we went with this, it would be about $105 million to do all three of those pools in complete replacement. Innovative Spaces is one of those other kind of tests in the community of are we there yet? We're seeing some of this here as you leave. If you look down this back hallway, Rolling Meadows has begun removing some of the lockers that our students aren't using and replace it with flexible seating. Every time I come in this building, I see kids sitting in those areas, how the community feels about it. The main entrances was also another one of those tests to see how the community feels about it. This is not a major priority list. It was not on the assessment. $850 million. It was an ad that we made because of the buildings from the 1950s to the 1970s. That grand entrance to see if that was of interest. And we could obviously enhance some of the safety and security with more space. But as I said before, we feel good about where we are in terms of safety entering the building, but just as an opportunity for feedback. In the student support areas, cafeterias, and kitchens, I spoke a little bit about this already, about how we're redesigning what student support systems look like in the district. And then we have a vision for what our cafeterias and kitchens look like in a more food court style setup. And this would help us accomplish that. We have a lot of outdated cafeteria or kitchen equipment that we're beginning to replace. And again, this was one of those areas to test and see how the community felt about this on our priority list. $78 million estimate if we touched all buildings in those areas. And athletic facilities, and again, I want to really emphasize, this is not about having premier athletic facilities to have premier athletic facilities. This is about addressing some of the safety and ADA needs of turf replacement because it's in life. There's actually a hill developing in Hersey's turf. The track at Elk Grove, as an example, has 6 lanes, and IHSA typically runs 8 lanes, but there we have a cell tower that's in the way. The lip there needs to be addressed. You notice in the bottom photo, there's handles going up. The bleachers making it more ADA accessible, which is a need across the district in indoor gyms as well as outdoor facilities. And so to upgrade those facilities across the district is $100 million. And again, I really want to emphasize it's more safety than it is aesthetics. All right. The feedback form now, I'm going to put up a QR code and I'll explain what to do. If you haven't taken the feedback form, or if you'd like to take it again, now that you have, if that's even a possibility of taking it again, now that you have this information, when you take it, I ask that you prioritize the list and rank things 1 through 10. 1 is what you prioritize the most, and 10 is the lowest. It's difficult, I know, to not have a tie, but I ask that you please rank everything 1 through 10. If you'd like to, if you don't want to use the technology, we do have paper copies, and we're happy to collect those and ensure they get added. So as I put the QR code up, if you'd like a paper copy, please raise your hand. We'll gladly give you one, and allow you to take that. This is what it looks like, and it has all 10 of those categories with a brief description of what is inside each category, as well as the dollar amount associated with it. There is no commitment to that dollar amount because you say this is my priority. In fact, you can rank your priorities and then on the next form still click no additional dollars to the district and have your voice be heard on how you feel we should prioritize the work, but still let your voice be heard that you don't feel additional dollars are warranted. That's perfectly acceptable. We want to hear from you regardless of the direction you feel we should go. All right, here's the QR code. I would welcome you to take a moment to begin filling that out. I see some hands. Yeah. Ask a question, then I or my team will do our best to answer your question. Of course. Yes, ma'am. You got it.
Question.
The ladies at the microphone will find you.
I can speak up.
Okay, I'll repeat it.
My question is, if I would like to fill this out and submit it at a later time, not this evening, can I scan this and what email would I send it to?
Well, the survey closes tonight. But if you can get it to us by tomorrow morning at the latest, then I'll have our partner be sure they include it. The email address is, you can send it to Patrick Moggy at d214.org. It'll be perfectly fine. It's patrick.mogge at d214.org. Or info at d214.org. Info, info at d214.org will also work exactly the same. Okay. Yes, sir.
Scott talking about prospect. This work.
Let's turn it on.
Hi, my name is Scott Tucker. I live in Mount Prospect. I'd like to know the current amount spent per student in the district. I believe it's over $24,000. And I believe also over 21% of our students cannot read proficiently.
Well, our per pupil expenditure is about $25,000, yes.
And who can read?
Well, they all can read. Proficiently by the state standards is well over 50%.
50%?
Well over 50% meet the state benchmark of college and career readiness.
You're saying 50% can read?
No, they all can. That's a deceiving statement. It's not about reading and ability to read. It's about reading proficiently according to the state of Illinois as being college and career ready. And that benchmark was just changed, and that number is much more in line with reality. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Philip Sturker, and my daughters went to Buffalo Grove High School. I have a couple questions. From what I saw out here and what I looked at home, is it fair to say that Prospect is the oldest school that needs most help?
It depends on the category. It is definitely the oldest.
Generally speaking, I think I saw more red. Is that a fair statement?
Mr. Yulee, I'm going to phone a friend on this one in terms of Prospect specific.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have some other questions for you, Jim, right over there.
Does Prospect need the most help?
It's all dependent on how we dig into those categories. There are 10,000.
There you go.
10,000 pages of spreadsheets.
Yeah, but generally speaking, right here, we can't get into details like that. From what I can see, it's fair to say that Prospect is the school that needs the most assistance. Is that fair?
According to this particular
This is gonna
document.
sting, but has this ever been brought up? Is it time to think of closing that school and then moving those students somewhere else? And then selling the property, possibly use those to offset some of the costs?
Well, given that Prospect is our most populous school, it's over 2,200 students, spreading those students around the district, I don't believe, without doing the research, would be, I'm not sure that would accomplish the goal. It would shift a problem. Because now you have, most of our buildings, Rolling Meadows actually has the most capacity for new students with about a window of about 400, I believe, of availability. With over 2,200 students, I think we would be creating another problem.
Another problem?
So it's a valid question.
Another question is this: the funding potential is going to come from homeowners, right? Have you thought about private equity funding by chance, going to like Onyx, Dearborn Partners, or TPG, Texas Pacific Group, to help out? A lot of these private equity firms will assist in some way.
Okay, we have not explored that. And I would have some serious reservations about private equity owning a stake in public schools just in terms of influence. But jot the idea down. I've not heard of a school doing that. I appreciate the thought.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question. Is this just mechanical? It's not for the teachers?
Correct. None of these dollars would go
I
to.
didn't see any improvement in, I've had multiple careers. I've had technical, I was a printer, I was in IT for 20-some years. I ended up with a handyman business for 16 years. So I read the gamut. I did not see any improvement in the trade system that you've had up there.
That's correct. This is 100% capital improvement. So buildings.
You talk about machines and everything like that.
Yes.
You're talking about the stage and lights and everything like that. That's an improvement for them.
Oh, absolutely. Our staff would benefit greatly from these improvements, without a doubt, in terms of the work environment.
Or what about the machines like the saws and the devices that they use in the...
I understand your question. I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you meant. A lot of the career and technical education, like equipment used in the pathways, is much more modernized than some of the infrastructure that we have. Those have been heavily invested in since about 2017.
I agree with a little bit, but I'm left-handed, all right? All right?
Sure.
Yeah, they do make left-handed tools. I had to sit through Elmhurst College through left-handed and right-handed chairs. I'm there, and I get very frustrated I'm a minority.
I can understand that.
And I was just curious. So the schools, the raises and everything like that, the teachers
It's
have.
a completely
nothing to do
different
with
funding
this.
mechanism. This money
Will
will
we
not.
get another referendum for that?
No, we're not seeking a referendum for that, but it's a completely different funding mechanism.
And I don't know, you had 50 years of not limited to referendum. I've lived in Almaden for almost 40 years. I remember voting some referendums.
There have been, yes, our center districts, different school districts. District 57 Mount Prospect just passed one last year. And
I lived in
District
Buffalo
25,
Grove, I'm talking about.
Buffalo Grove, that's Wheeling 21 probably, or Arlington Heights 25. They both have gone in the last 10 years.
25. Well, they had to have a referendum for the pool.
And I think that's one of the challenges is the point that I made at the beginning of the presentation is that overtaxed feeling is although we may not have gone and asked for additional funds, our center districts have, which creates a challenge in the ways our school districts are organized in Illinois. It's not something we take lightly.
Hi, good evening. My name is Martin Bauer. I am the parent of 3 graduates from Rolling Meadows right here. Spent a lot of the last 11 years right here in this theater. I have a comment and a question. So I'm an actuary by background. I tried to make sense of these numbers. For that, I've done as much research as I possibly can. Building, design, and construction, a trade publication for commercial real estate, came out with a report last year, 2024, so it's current, that says for Chicago high schools in this area, so not other schools, not other areas, the average cost to construct a high school is $288.59 per square foot. The Minnesota Department of Education says a typical high school has between 150 and 200 square feet per student. I tried to make sense of that. District 214 says we have 2.53 million square feet under management. Divide that by 12,000 students, you get 211 square feet per student. Makes sense, squares. When I multiply $288.59 by 2.53 million square feet, I get a figure of $730 million to build every single high school from scratch, brand new. Brand new. And so my question is, how can it make any sense whatsoever that improvements cost $866 million when brand new spanking buildings would be $730 million? That's my question.
It's a good question, and those figures are a little different than what I have heard. I've heard it's between 300 and 400 million per school, but I don't discount the source, and I would welcome if you send that to me so I can take a look at it. I wonder though if it includes outfitting the school and in terms of the classrooms and then all the furniture that would expand that cost, but it's still well worth looking into. I still believe, based on what I know and our experience, that it wouldn't be feasible, but I'm happy to look at the resource, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Hi, my name is James Johnson, RMHS graduate, 3 daughters. Just a simple question. Is the district looking into grants or philanthropic sources for at least part of these funds?
I appreciate that question. The state of Illinois had a capital improvement grant fund. It operated as a reimbursement back when many school districts were building in the late 90s and early 2000s. And when the Great Recession occurred, that really stopped. So they haven't fulfilled that since, I want to say, like the 2003 to 2005 window of construction. They no longer even offer the program in the state of Illinois. There is a $50,000 capital improvement grant available annually that we apply for and are given that goes into our capital improvement fund. But the grants of the magnitude that we're talking, we certainly are connected to them, but we don't currently have any available to us. Sure. I think it starts to enter in that. We have not ventured down that road. It's a good suggestion for us to look into. But I would start to, the magnitude is where it comes back to. But it certainly, if you pair the two together, it could be a potential solution. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Kelly. I have 2 daughters here, one of which is in the V show here at our main
Everybody's
show.
going to come see it.
So
Come to the
please
variety
come
show.
see it. It's an awesome show. I do want to ask you, I know that you've been talking a little bit about how you don't want private funds, you want, to be careful about that, but the district has started a sponsorship program, right? That's private company funds, and my understanding of it, and please, maybe there's some specifics I don't understand, but that was to help the district to pay for things that it needs. So I was interested in understanding why that's okay, but I think
Sure.
the gentleman had a question about private capital that was not okay. And the second question I have in general is, I think we all are having a bit of a huge sticker shock with like you've talked a little bit about. I know probably about, all of the other things coming into families. We've just had the District 25 referendum that's, now we're paying for. I'm in Arlington Heights. The Village of Arlington Heights is now doing streaming taxes, and they're contemplating all sorts of other taxes, and of course you talked about the state as well. I'm just wondering, and I know that you're getting feedback, is this the right time for all of this versus really prioritizing those things that are most needed? And although I know you showed us 10 years of, yes, we do spend money on the district, is there any thought to how some of the maintenance really got to this point of saying, well, now we're on a cliff of things, we have to completely, they're end of life. Because I used to live in an apartment building, and the association would know exactly this is when our stuff is gonna have to be replaced, and they would manage the money so that they would put it on a schedule for replacement. And I know you talked a little bit about, some of the challenges and, curveballs you have right now. But I'm just wondering how we got to this point where things are so bad that $1 billion, I know that's rounding. What kind of reaction do you think you were going to get from the community to show that you guys are fiscally responsible?
Sure. Completely understand.
But thank you for everything else you guys do with Career Pathways, by the way, because I love the program.
I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you for the question. Let me tackle a couple of those. So first, I think my rationale for shying away from the private investment had more to do with the term private equity. And it could be a bias that I have. My view of private equity is takeover. And in the business world, that's typically what happens. And that would not be good for our kids and our program and our community in playing out how I'm envisioning it. The advertising and sponsorship is on a much, much lower scale. We're talking about advertising on the inside the fences of our outdoor stadiums. We're talking about video advertising or signage on the video scoreboard. The scrolling advertisements in the basketball gym that would bring in, I think the assessment that we did was maybe, I don't remember how much it was. Patrick, do you remember what the total of potential for, if we maximize everything at our disposal, is maybe $1 million of advertisement sponsorship revenue? And our thought was, our purpose for bringing that forward was an alternate option of additional revenue just to help. It was important as we entered this kind of, and to your last question, this is exactly the response that we expected. I didn't expect people were going to see $850 million. Say, sure, why not? You got it. Like that's irrational. But at the same time, the way we as a team have decided to approach things in the district, and my conversations with the school board on my team is open, honest. This is our reality. We have some problems that we have to solve, and when you solve big problems, there isn't always a clean solution. And we're okay with that because we want you to know that we recognize that not everything is hunky-dory and peachy, but we have some challenges that we want to tackle, and we want you to see where we're going and why we're going there, and that we're going there with kids in mind as our priority in everything that we do. And so I'm not surprised by the sticker shock. That's an enormous number. When we first saw it, we wrangled with it for quite some time of how are we going to begin to unpack $850 million. And when we started breaking it into chunks is when it became a little, like any big problem. You start breaking it into chunks and how am I going to begin tackling this? It starts to make a little bit of sense. There's a first step. There's a second step. So if we alter the direction of the plan because it's not the right time, like we're going to adjust because we have to do some of these things. Just like, I think it's obvious, we have to do some of these things. They just may happen at a slower rate, and hopefully we can accomplish some of it before the system breaks down. And I say that not as a scary thing. That's not my intent at all. But more, our team, our custodial maintenance team does a phenomenal job of piecing this all together. They really, really do. This is more about, let's educate the community. Our buildings are 50 to 75 years old. And some of this wholesale system replacement, it's just time to start addressing them. And we're not trying to put lipstick on a pig in an aspect. Our schools are by no means in dire need of falling apart. They're safe, sound structures. The systems need to be updated. We had to close Buffalo Grove a couple times because the air conditioner failed on a 105-degree day. We had to close one time when we shifted the air conditioning submitted or created condensation, and there was like an ice rink in one of the hallways, and we couldn't have kids there. And I can't accept Cook County's property tax breakdown. I can't accept when our systems don't work that prevent our kids from coming to school, and I want to prevent that from happening. So that's why we're trying to be solution focused. And I don't share these numbers with you to scare you or to create shock. Believe it or not, in my 2.5 years in the district, I absolutely love it here, and I don't want a frustration in this relationship. I want you to have faith in what we do and believe that we're good stewards of the tax dollars that we are fortunate enough to work with. We work extremely hard and are very proud of what we offer in this district. And the tax dollars that our community sends our way, we take great care of. And we're trying to be very intentional with how those dollars are spent, focused on where they go, which is to our students. And this is just about open communication. And it's a tough sandwich to bite into. I recognize that.
Craig Brooks, and I've had 3 graduates from Rolling Meadows. I got a number of questions. I think you said the referendum is for 25 years?
Those figures, we haven't decided. If we go to a referendum, we haven't determined a length. These figures are based on a 25-year assumption.
Okay, and if it went for the 25 years, would there be a cap per year of X million?
Dr. Adler, would you mind explaining how the issuance of bonds and project completion must be completed?
Sure.
You make sure you come up there so I can see you. Would you mind?
So,
One other question, I don't know if you're going to present it. What's the cost per household to go through this? What would our taxes rate?
We have a slide that shows that in each funding category. This is on that 25% assumption. So like the 400 million is about just under $200 a year. 600, $310 a year. 800 is $421
I
a year.
didn't realize that how it was distributed. Thanks.
You got it. All right, Dr. Adler.
So if the district goes to referendum, and if the referendum passes, whatever dollar amount gets approved by the voters, the school district has up to 5 years to issue that full amount. So that can be done in several different stages. It can be done all at once in year 1, or it can be done an issue every 5 years in equal installments. Once it's issued, we have 3 years to spend 85% of those dollars. So the issuance could extend out, the construction could extend out about 8 years from the point that the vote happens. And then that amount for that particular bond issue will remain level for the duration of that
about 8 years to finish the totality of the work, so it just depends on the scope. I mean, we can work on air conditioning systems in the wintertime when they're turned off. We can work on boiler systems in the summertime. Roof work is typically when students aren't here, depending on the scope of it. But we do, it becomes challenging when kids are here from August to late May, early June. We have to scramble in the summertime.
Interest rates on the bonds?
That's a good question, and it's going to depend on the interest rate at the time, whenever we go out. So I would imagine that if we were to do, say, 3 different issues over that 5-year period, it'll be a different interest rate every single time, depending on market conditions.
Range, where you had to be looking already, so.
We're probably looking between 4 and 5%.
Okay. And all of the costs that I'm seeing here, that's over and above the 30X million already spending every year?
Yes, sir. That spending, we don't have plans, assuming that it's in the budget, we don't have plans to stop it. That's a good, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's part of the planning that we're doing. At no point did we ever think that the community was going to come forth and say, we'll take care of all of it. We always had a plan to maximize how much we're spending on capital each year going forward. And if we ever achieve the point where we say all this work is completed, our plan is a minimum of $25 to $30 million annually for upkeep and renewal going forward.
Okay, so it really could be over $1 billion by the time we get in. If it was 10 years, it'd be another 300 million plus.
Could be, yes, sir.
Okay. And what are we expecting from the Bears? And should that offset any of this?
Sure. There's a significant amount of misinformation about what the Bears are actually going to bring in terms of payment, windfall of money for the school districts. The agreement that we approved with the Bears, the memorandum of understanding in December of '24, was how we would work together. And what we accomplished with that was that if students are generated from that property in any way, that either the Bears or the developer or the village or some combination of the 3 would ensure that the per pupil expenditure came with that student so that we could educate them without an unfunded burden on the school district. That's not going to come in some form of a tax for you to pay. It'll probably be shifted on the developer and added to the home value as a kind of an impact fee. That's an assumption I'm making. That's not anything the Bears have given us. The other property we have that in that memorandum of understanding is if a new school was needed, that construction cost would also come from the development and would not be on the school district. Or an expansion of the school where those students were going would come from that expense. We don't receive sales tax money, only property tax money. And so we're not expecting a windfall because we anticipate the only way they'll be able to raise the non-stadium portion of that area is through a TIF, which we don't receive those tax dollars for quite some time. We did accomplish maybe the most significant, not talked about factor here is a seat at the table with a weighted vote on how the TIF will be managed. TIFs for quite some time have not been pro-school or positive to school, and our voice in terms of how the village manages those TIFs will matter as the 3 school districts carry a weighted vote, which will be very significant to ensure that those dollars and the surplus that those TIFs create are utilized in a productive way like some of our other village partners.
I have a question related to trying to answer the potential funding levels. What is the district capped for a certain tax increment maximum in our tax bills per year?
The property tax extension limitation.
Yeah, so in the property tax extension limitation law, the district can only raise the operating tax rate by the lesser of CPI or 5%. So it'll be CPI as of December 24, which I believe was 2.9%.
So getting back to your explanation of these dollar amounts to $400 a year. You said that only would happen for eight years?
No, sir, we have 8 years to complete the work after the bond issuance. If those bonds were issued, it would be a 25-year term.
So we would have to pay that dollar amount for 25 years?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. In the, looking at how the percentage of what we currently pay and then this tack on, is there two separate lines for what you're doing? Like your operating expense, what we're paying in our taxes now, and then now we get this referendum to pay another 800, or whatever the number's gonna be. Are those two separate line items?
Are you talking about on the tax bill?
On the tax bill, yes.
Yeah, so on the taxes that Cook County issues, you can go on their website and see all the different funds broken out. So as part of your taxes, you may not see it on your specific tax bill, but on Cook County's website, there are tax agency forms, so you'd be able to look up 214 and see very specifically what is being collected in taxes for this referendum issue.
And then final question is, what happens if everything goes south and you guys, and you don't get the referendum, what's gonna happen?
Well, if we decide, we'll plan accordingly. I mean, we have to begin attacking some of these. If the funds aren't there and the community says no, then we'll live with it and we'll move on and try and begin tackling them as best we can.
All right, so I'm an actuary, but I have a friend who designs surveys for a living. And I asked her about this survey that you've been sharing, and she says it's not going to get a statistically valid result. Both because you have been promoting it to everybody that's interested and cares, passionately is concerned about it, rather than doing a random survey, and because of the way the questions are worded, that you're grouping together needs and wants and saying prioritize pools, but the pool category includes the need of fixing the Wheeling Pool and the want of a pool at Rolling Meadows. You're offering as your minimum spending $400 million, which is already a very large amount. So I guess to turn this into a question, who wrote the survey? Are you guys aware that this is not a kind of research-based survey, that it's got serious limitations? Do you have somebody that knows about survey design that can advise you on how to really understand what the survey can and can't actually tell you? Because the way it's designed, your consultant, assuming it was them, designed it to give you an answer that says the community wants a big amount of spending, rather than giving you the real pulse of the community on this.
Well, how I would answer that is our partner did write the survey. That's part of the program that they bring to us. But I would tell you that, like any consultant, the consultant works for us, and we direct how the feedback is interpreted and how we choose to engage with the community. And how we're going to take this feedback is we're going to look at it in two different categories. What is the priority list ranked based on how, and does that align with our internal planning? I've said a preview of the phone survey, and it aligns with our internal planning. I'm eager to see the online survey to see if that does as well, if that's validating some of our planning. And as for the expense, that's really just about feedback of what percentage of the community believes that a number is favorable. That doesn't mean that we're automatically going to go that route. That's a conversation that we have to have of is it the right time? There's a lot of uncertainty. It's a human decision based on, we're trying to be merge together objectivity and subjectivity in a good decision in a partnership with the community. So we're not trying to trick anyone. That's not our end result. No one wins if you feel tricked and then it creates a feeling of spite and resentment. We're not after that. We're looking for honest and open feedback, which is why we're having these sessions so that we break outside the survey and answer questions and engages people.
Hi, I'm a 214 graduate, some of my kids are, and I want to celebrate first that I think what you're doing with these pathway things is exactly what you're doing. So I'm really glad you do that, and I just want to tell you that before.
Thank you.
Say all sort of stuff. Okay, You know, I went on the list, and I was like, look at like for the classrooms, for example, jury paint, old carpeting, old desks, 60 million. And I just did, not like Martin Brower, I'm not as good at that, but I do know something about, you know, building costs. At $300 a square foot, you can build 200,000 square foot facility for $60 million. It just seems these prices are, I don't know, they're insane as far as I'm concerned anyway, but I have some things I'm gonna skip over because other people touched on it. So, again, for context, in the articles in the paper, one of the highest skyscrapers in Chicago sold for $43 million this year. So again, I took $200 million for upgrade for HVAC, and I was kind of have to shake my head. I just can't see that, you know, how that works like that. But there's another side of this that you know that we have to weigh with the needs and wants of the schools in the school district. Is how much people can afford, because you know, I'm telling you something you already know, I presume, but like, we're already being pretty heavily taxed, and I just checked where it came, 70% of our real estate bill goes to paying school taxes, and it's a lot. But in any case, the other things, you know, for example, Illinois has the second highest gas tax, and there's a lot of things like that about Illinois, and so I will bring up this, that we've had the net migration for the state is the third worst in the country, because people are moving out, because they've had enough. It's 41 in the state, and they can't afford it, so they move away. And so my question is, you know, what are we going to do if people continue to move away with these onerous taxes? Who's going to pay them? So I'm just trying to say, you know, we have to weigh everything, you know, consider everything involved here. And then, I don't know, we have to sharpen our pencils or something, because, again, some of the prices for these things I think are out of line. So, all right, that's my sense.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment on the 4 schools that are at a 5-alarm fire with their mechanicals. Why did you wait until now to address them? I saw a couple schools where they're half red for mechanicals, but 4 of them are bleeding red. And I've been paying taxes for decades, and it's, you know, hoping that you are being fiscally responsible. You should have replaced Prospects when it was half red, and then move on to Wheeling. Why do you wait till it's critical now and then lump everything together? This is infuriating. You wouldn't do that to your own home. Why did you wait?
Well, it's a valid question. It's a valid question, and I won't be able to give you a complete answer. I've been here for 2.5 years. I can't answer the whole thing, but I can tell you.
Let you know, we have little faith in seeing these numbers and seeing these results. Little faith.
I can tell you that a lot of those are beginning to shift from red to yellow or red to green because we are replacing them. We've done considerable HVAC work at Wheeling in the last couple of years. There is work planned at Prospect coming up, I believe, in 2027. And maybe so. I can't answer all of that about the history, but I can tell you that we learn about the state and the needs through an assessment that was conducted that hadn't been conducted before. And it's just a different way of doing things. So we learn about the issue, so we have to address the issue. And they still work. It's not, we're not in buildings where the heating and air conditioning doesn't work, but it's getting to the point where it needs to be addressed. And we're merely opening the door to the conversation and saying we're going to address them, help us prioritize them. But I understand where you're coming from, and I can't argue against you in this moment. But I commit to you that moving forward, that won't be the case.
I want to thank you for being here and allowing us to share our comments and our concerns. I want to tag back on the lady that spoke some time back, and also the one that just spoke now. My greatest concern from my perspective, and I think from a lot of other people here, is that historically, the CIP program, Capital Improvement Program, should have been a live document that was reviewed, assessed, monitored, and executed accordingly to the budget. by your slides today and by the dollar amount that you're asking for, that wasn't done. And my concern now is if you get this lump sum of money, how do we know that the buildings are going to be constantly monitored, assessed, and brought up to grade?
Well, I would tell you that the capital improvement planning document is alive and well from all that time. Because these are not, we've known these needed to be addressed. We had the 5-year window plans that they built on this active running capital improvement system.
If we got to the point where the boiler has been sitting there since 1957.
At some time decisions were made. You're right. At some time decisions were made.
And that's what I'm saying, is that they weren't proactively monitored on a yearly basis so that the more critical systems were addressed and repaired.
And I can't speak to some of the processes of the operations team of the past. It's a completely new team, and what I commit to you, and I think if you have students in the district now or the annual report that you received from us last fall, we do have intentionality to be open about what we're focusing on, where we're going. We have a brand new strategic plan. Annually, we'll be reporting out, these are the areas, these are our goals, and here's how we're tracking against those goals. And this would be, if the community decides to fund some of these projects, this would be a part of that annual reporting. This is where those dollars went to try and rebuild some of that trust. Understandably, I understand why you asked that question.
Sure, thank you. For our understanding that historically, there was no assessments done on these buildings? There's no history.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out if we're going to give a microphone. Should I hear you so I can repeat?
Assessments done on the buildings previously?
The assessment's not in the nature that we have access to from similar to what we conducted, no. I'm sure there were assessments that were conducted, just not as comprehensive that we have found. Mr. Yulee, or Dr. Abbott, have you seen anything in the past? Okay.
So do we have to have a department per school?
We
that
do.
Monitors and maintains and helps with the equipment depreciation and all of that?
We have, one of the investments the district just made was to that very process of monitoring the health of each of our systems. They now have a QR code on them, so when our custodial maintenance team come up, they can scan the QR code that shows when it was installed, when the last maintenance was done on it, when the filters were replaced, and expected life expectancy. So we have a system in place now that didn't exist prior to the last couple of years. So it is in place now moving forward. It doesn't solve some of the history, but I feel very good about where we are so that this issue won't be repeated again. We're trying to solve systemic problems and be really systems thinkers instead of piecemealing solutions.
Yeah, hi, my name is Joe Houlihan. I'm a 40-year resident of Arlington Heights, and over a period of time, I've seen, on my second house to purchase here in Arlington Heights, I've seen a 400% increase in my tax bill. There's a major disconnect between, I think, your budgeting, and you should look at needs versus wants. Every household, every homeowner, we all would like and want something, but we need something. And you've got to start tightening a budget like everybody else. 30 years ago versus 25, 30 years ago, you had 19 or 20,000 students in the district. It's flattening out, and it's flattened out at about 12,000. Yet your budget over the same period of time is up by a factor of 400%. You've got to, homeowners are really stretched, and like my colleague has said, how many people are leaving here because we're stuck with the highest taxes? Yeah, there are some basic needs that need to be addressed, but others that are wish lists about, things looking, maybe we need to get some paint here or paint there. I mean, you've got to live within your means like every other unit in every family, and this does not seem to be the case. You come up with a brand new wish list and says, they're far, far from everything else, because that's like the politicians who come and say, I'm here to help you, and it never turns out that way.
Like every,
Thank you.
thank you for the question. School districts and really most businesses probably spend 70% of their budget on salary and benefits. And if you look at our budget, we're no different. 70% of our revenue goes to our budget annually, goes to salary and benefits of our employees. And as I said in the presentation early on, we want to put the very, very best in front of our kids. I'm very proud to be able to offer a living wage to our first year teachers, which is where education should be, in my opinion. The remainder of that, you'll go back and look at district budgets, and outside of some of those intentional spend downs of fund balance, we have a balanced operating budget annually. So we are living within our means, and we are being very intentional in tightening the way we do things. I mentioned systems thinking in my prior question, and that's exactly what we're doing across the entire board. And I'll use an example that's not so much financial related to kind of explain that. When I first started, we were beginning the strategic planning process. There were public counters at our board meetings that were raising questions about alignment across our buildings. And we have 6 comprehensive high schools that have 6 different ways of doing things. And it's kind of the way the district, when we went through, the way the district was. And we went through the strategic planning process, and the number one theme from our community feedback was we'd like to see alignment across our schools in critical areas like English 2 at Prospect is English 2 at Elk Grove, or chemistry is chemistry, algebra 1 is algebra 1. And so we've committed to creating that system. And we've taken that thinking across the board and taking a lot of that decision making and control of how we do things back to the district level for now, so that we can create those systems and processes that our schools follow a similar process to achieve the end that you're describing, which allows us to find efficiencies in how we do things so that we can divert the dollars to the most critical places where they belong. And we are finding some efficiencies in doing that. It's unfortunately just not an overnight fix. It's a long process to create really tight processes that create efficiencies and opportunities. But I appreciate your question and your point.
If one other comment, I would just say, when you say you're living within your means, you're not living within your means, you're living within our means. Every building, yes, it's going up. The means are because you're able to take more from the taxpayer. It's not your means, it's
You're right. I appreciate your point, and we don't take lightly where our tax dollars come from, which is exactly why we're engaging in this conversation. The only thing I would challenge is we aren't taking things. We want to have a conversation about our building needs, and if the community says we're willing to offer more, then we'll continue the discussion. If not, then if not. We take very seriously the management of our funds, and we know exactly where they come from, and we don't take that for granted. It's something that we take pride in terms of managing it tightly and living within our means. But at the same time, we know where our tax dollars come from, which is why we want this conversation with you to be very open and honest and transparent about where we are and where we need to go.
Before I speak, I want to give you a document, Superintendent, and one to you as well, so you understand visually what I'm about to say. That's my property taxes and the proposed property taxes. If I'm not successful.
Can you use a mic?
Sure.
Thank you.
Craig Horowitz, Buffalo Grove. I'm a 40-year resident. I have kids that went to Buffalo Grove High School, London, and Riley. First and foremost, I love the area. But when I moved in over 30 years ago, and I have a spreadsheet that I wish all of you would have, so you'd be as enraged as I am. My property taxes were $1,900. If I'm not successful with my second appeal, how many people have received their denial appeal from Cook County assessors already? Yeah, right. Deny. Exactly. Right. So if I'm not successful with my appeal to the Board of Review, my property taxes will reach $10,000. Now I can assure you, most people in this room have not seen their incomes go up that much. Now, my building AV in 5 years, because your property taxes are based on building and land, my building AV has gone up 90% in 5 years. if I'm not successful in getting my appeal down. Each year, this board raises the tax levy to the maximum that the law allows. And even though at the end of the year, according to the documents I've seen, you have anywhere between 190 to 200 million in reserves, according to the June 30th documents that you have on the website. I'm not an accountant, by the way, and I'm no expert. But I did try to reach Superintendent Attaway, so thank you very much for calling me, but I didn't reach you. Here's what I would support. Use some of this reserve. Cut from the existing budget. Work on the 10 most important of the 10 projects. But again, this is the wrong time to be asking these people and me for anything more. Whether it's $1 or $100, it doesn't matter. To expect a referendum to ask for more money when we're being excessively property taxed out the gazoo, this is the wrong time to be having this conversation. And I appreciate everything you do, but not asking for more.
All right, we have time for one or two more questions.
So I am a proud graduate of 214. Obviously, different time back then. But I think part of what is difficult for me, at least, with a few aspiring graduates ourselves coming up, is the lack of data-driven decision-making and outcomes-focused decision-making that would give us a little bit more of an idea of the ROI and how it would impact our learning, our kids' learning, and how, you know, I understand collaborative work and how mobile tables are a really nice thing to have, right? But if we have those tables, how much better is learning going to be in the classroom? If we have, I don't know, these floating table things all over the place, which I know makes it sound like Harry Potter, but if we had these floating tables that were all over the place, what would suggest that those would then be used? What data do you have on the usage today? What data do you have on what it could look like in the future and the usage then? And then the last thing is, what do our students and their profiles look like at each of the schools? If we are investing in schools where the tech program already has a high graduation rate and they're going to four-year universities, if that's working, do we need to invest in that, or can we divert our funds to something else in case there's more people going into different career paths, right? Not going into a four-year program, not going into, right, like trade schools, those kinds of things. I know that Wheeling, you guys invested very heavily in what could be trades in the future. And so my question is, have you done any of that data analysis to figure out if you're diverting the funds to the right places, besides a new roof, besides water damage, all of that?
Sure. No, we have not. We don't have the data to support that a collaborative table is going to increase student performance or student outcomes. It's more about the type of environment that we're trying to shift instruction to be to. So truth be told, no, that data doesn't exist at this point. We are going to need to evaluate everything in terms of what students are interested in. And we've shifted that internally regarding enrollment practices and student scheduling, so that students are voting with their feet of what they're interested in. What we have to do internally is not just add, but add and subtract, and remove a program that begins to be fading or evaluate if it still should be there. So we are having those discussions internally. There's nothing definitive yet, but they are happening internally. Valid.
Bringing an insight to that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We can share it if we get on this path in terms of the why. I think it's a certain valid initiative.
Could you please go back to the slide that has the chart with the 10 projects and the schools?
This one?
Yes. It's so small, I can't see the red. Why is the red under mechanical, just half of it, and what's written underneath each one?
Some of the mechanical systems have begun to be replaced at those buildings, or they're just in better shape. And the number is how much it would cost to upgrade in each building.
Each one?
Each building, yes.
Okay. You also showed a picture of the what's current and the potential. Are any of the mechanicals in the different schools, are any of them the potential?
They are. We replaced Buffalo Grove's boiler last summer, and actually just before this talked about updating the photo instead of the potential of what a modern, more energy efficient boiler would be to actually show what Buffalo Grove's look like, because it was replaced last summer. Yes, we've begun that work.
Okay, and out of the four, what is the oldest unit up there?
The oldest unit mechanical would be at Prospect. It's the eldest building, so that would probably be their boiler system and generator.
So why wasn't that
Wait, when was it though? When was it put in?
When the building opened in 1957.
Wow. And nothing's been done since then?
No, ma'am, it's functioned just fine since then.
Don't they have a lifespan? I mean, nowadays.
They do have a lifespan. The things that were built back then have a long history of lasting longer.
Yes, I understand.
And our teams have been well trained in terms of maintenance and finding replacement parts to upkeep them. The trouble and the reason why they're more red now is we're having a harder time getting those parts to replace them to continue that upkeep.
Okay, and do you have anything like, everybody has to plan for when their system goes out? They say, now it's 15 years, it never was that before. So in 15 years, you start saving so that it could be replaced. Do you have anything like that in operation where somebody's watching when each unit should be replaced?
We do. As I just described earlier, we have each of our systems are now called an asset tag that have insight as to when they were installed, and when the regular maintenance has been conducted, and what their life expectancy is. To my knowledge, that wasn't something that maybe was in place 20 years ago. We were relying on kind of our internal checks on that. So that is in place now as we're trying to prevent the magnitude of what we're talking about from happening again in the future. At some point, guys, this gentleman down here in the front has had his hand up several times, and we've worked down here for a microphone.
You know what, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should take every question that everybody's got to answer, not one more question than we got.
I'm happy to do that.
You got to remember you work for us. We pay. I've been a taxpayer for District 214 for over 50 years. You guys come to us, want to take our money. First off, I want to know where our COVID money went. How did you spend the COVID money? The
ESSER dollars were spent.
Okay, that's number one. I'll give you a couple of questions.
Multiple questions.
Okay, and then another one. You guys cut a deal with the Chicago Bears with the tax rate for the school district where you could get the money from the billionaires. But no, their tax assessment, you guys cut a deal, you lowered their tax assessment by 33%. You want to do that for everybody in this room? Think about that. And quit looking at your watch. You remind me of Joe Biden.
Everything you said just is validated by the attack that you started with. Just be good, civil people, please.
Doctor, Scott Tucker, Mount Prospect. I'm a little concerned by the survey. The electronic survey does not allow me to select the option of no new taxes. It keeps telling me you can go, I've checked all the boxes. So your electronic survey does not work. I've had to ask for a paper ballot so I can say no new taxes. I'm giving false choices. Should we spend 400 million? Should we spend 800 million? And I think we may have dodged a question earlier. You asked the gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name on the laptop. I think somebody asked for, is there a cap? If we select $850 million of new taxation, is there a cap, or does it go to 1 billion, 1.1, 1.2? Is there any guarantee that it does go above the 866 million that's on the screen?
Whatever, if referendum finds its way on the ballot and is passed, that is the amount that could be drawn. It would not raise above that. No, sir. If it goes over budget, that's not your responsibility. The community would say, this is the amount, that's the amount we'd be able to draw.
I guess that was my question, the assumptions that went into the cost. Was there some assumptions built in the timing of the expenditure? Because we're sitting on a 3% inflation each year. That 866 could become 1.1 billion 4 years.
I believe our construction partners were building in a 5% industry growth annually for inflation.
I kind of follow up to the comment about, you said Buffalo Grove, one right here.
Wait here,
Right here,
thanks.
sorry.
I just want to look at you when you're asking the question. Thank you.
You said that Buffalo Grove's boiler was replaced last year,
Yes, ma'am.
but Buffalo Grove is a newer school compared to Prospect, so that's like curious to me
It's
why
hard to
you
wrap your
would-
head around.
What?
It's hard to wrap your head around. The newest
Yeah.
building needs to be replaced first.
My kids went to Prospect, so I'm familiar with Prospect, they graduated. And like I'm looking at this theater and I know, you know, it's older, but honestly, this is so much better than what's at Prospect. And when my daughter was there, sometime between 2014 and 2018, they did a refresher of it, which was a waste of money. It's the most uncomfortable theater there is. It's very flat. The chair backs are high. You can't see. The stage is tiny. And all that money was spent on this refresher, and it's horrible. I mean, I would take this theater night and day over what Prospect has. So I'm concerned with decisions that are made with the money that's being spent in a way that makes no sense. Couple other question. When will the survey results be available for the public to see, and where will we see it?
Sure. The survey results will be posted to our website. If you go into the About tab on the District 214 website, there's a facilities planning document. Everything will be dropped there. They'll be presented publicly at our board meeting on November 13th. That's viewable online as well if you want to just watch from home.
So on November 13th,
the survey results will be discussed. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then just one other comment. So I live in Mount Prospect. I live in the District 57 boundary, which is fairly small. And we just have a referendum pass. So I'm waiting for my tax bill, yay, to see if that's going to go up substantially. We also had our Park District referendum pass, so that's going to go up. I just lost my train of thought, sorry. I know. 7 years ago, District 57 also had a referendum pass because they said we're going to have 30 kids in a classroom, we have to cut staff, we have to cut music, we have to cut art. So we said yes to it, it passes, and they said we won't come to you for 10 years. Well, 7 years later, they came to us for a bigger one to rebuild the school and add on another school. So I guess I'm jaded with trusting what the school district tells you and what reality is, and are you doing the smart thing? Like, why would you replace Buffalo Grove's boiler over Prospects? It just seems kind of haphazard, not a lot of thought.
I think the answer to the last part of your question is Buffalo Grove's boiler was failing. Prospect's boiler has not been failing. It's just we are having a hard time getting replacement parts for it. So Buffalo Grove's replacement was a critical replacement. It reached into life and it stopped functioning. That's why that was replaced. But I'm going to validate your feeling. I completely understand why you might be jaded by the public school system. This is the mechanism that schools are afforded to tackle some of these big projects, is ask the community for referendum. And it's not lost on us that District 57 has gone twice in the last 10 years. The Mount Prospect Park District, Wheeling 21 just built their new administration center and their health center. Arlington Heights 25 had a full-day kindergarten. Prospect Heights 23 has gone a number of times and it's failed. It's all around us, and we don't know each other. I've only been here 2.5 years, but I hope that you'll pay attention to the track record and let us prove that we can earn your trust, because I understand, and I can't challenge that feeling. if that's why we're engaging in the conversation, is genuinely is for feedback. What you'll see in the coming phases really is about how the responses garner the reaction and the next step that we take. And I hope that turns into a step toward increased trust. And if we go to referendum, and if it passes, and you see how those dollars are managed and expended for student benefit, student and staff benefit, then that we can build that over time. But I can't challenge that. I can't say that there is as a taxpayer in Illinois, it's a significant burden, and I recognize that.
Yes, I'm Richard Clark. Lived in Rolling Meadows for 40-some years. My 2 kids graduated from Rolling Meadows High School, and I think you have very good trade programs, building homes and stuff.
Thank you.
But taxes are too high, and Forest View High School was built and then used for only a couple of years, so the district isn't very good with money. And another question. This is about the schools, but Charlie Kirk, Wheeling couldn't give him a distinguished alumni?
So Forest View High School houses our specialized high school. Our specialized programs are LIFE, which is our 18 to 22 transition program. It houses our International Newcomer Academy. It houses our Vanguard Personalized Learning School, and the Academy at Forest View, where students who have kind of emotional dysregulation go for additional support because they've struggled being successful in the comprehensive high school. So we run 4 significant programs as a school in Forest View. And it houses our community education program, where we offer a variety of options for the community to engage in, whether it be travel or learn English or gain citizenship, those as well as like yoga classes and pickleball, things like that. And then our district offices are housed there. As for the history of Forest View, I can't speak to how long it was in session, but it is used and is a wonderful school for some of our neediest students today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carla Wallach. I'm a resident of Arlington Heights. My husband's a high school teacher at Elk Grove High School. I have kids that will be joining the District 214 experience in about 5-15 years, so I have a wide range. I'm here to say I acknowledge your job is hard, and I also acknowledge that we are strapped with the funding structure that schools are funded, and we're all kind of accountable to it. I think at the same time, what you're hearing here is just a growing amount of frustration with the sticker shock, and I think you did a disservice by not providing information around the intangibles, right? What are the things that will happen if we do not invest short-term, long-term? What are the inputs that you got? Archon probably did a great job providing that consulting service, but I'm curious how much that cost to begin with, right? And what is their track record in getting this kind of information in a way that is actually compelling and adjusted to the current pricing that it's going to take to really get some of these implementations done. I think long-term, one of the things that I would ask is not only the feedback, but the follow-through. How are you implementing this feedback, right? My expectation is that this is part of your strategy. Big sticker shock, referendum fails, come back again, lower amount, that's when it passes. I mean, we've seen that playbook over and over again. I think ultimately we do know that this has to happen, but you have to have more information and accountability so that when I'm back here with my kids in high school, I have faith in how things happen and implemented. Because at the end of the day, we're all suffering from financial distress, economic market is unstable right now, and it's only gonna get worse. And at the same time, you asking for all of this money without a lot of information, just giving us some nice pictures and all of that, which, I get, doesn't tell the full story, right? My husband supports students that are in incredible amount of need and distress in a personal life, and school is a refuge. School is where they come to feel supported by teachers, by employees, and if their environment is also in a state of distress, that's not creating a positive learning environment for the teachers or the students. But your information doesn't tell the full story, right? You're talking mechanics, you're talking all of this, and that's great. But you have to tell the full story of costs. Right now, kids are getting bused from Rolling Meadows to Elk Grove for swim lessons. That's time, that's money that we need to quantify, right? Like if we get a pool, what are we gonna get back? If we do some of the mechanical investments, there's cost savings in terms of new technology coming in, solar panels. I'm in the renewable energy industry, I totally understand that perspective, but you should be quantifying the payback periods of that, because the payback periods, the amount of money that we're gonna hopefully save long-term, should help build a compelling argument for you, for this crowd especially.
I appreciate that point. I would say that I ask for a little patience to get to what you're asking for. No, just in terms of time, because the reality is if I don't want to come and engage in this conversation and it come across to you like a scare tactic. Like if this doesn't happen, this is the outcome. I think if we approach the conversation that way, I'd have no shot of earning trust that what we say we're going to do with the money is how it's going to be spent, because you would feel as if you were bent over barrel and abused.
Someone here's calling you dilly-dallying, right? And they're just feeling that
I understand.
entrance.
It's coming in the future phases. I'm told by our partner. We get very specific where you see what each school needs and how they would benefit from the dollars in the categories, instead of doing that through 10 categories. We're looking of the education phase of this. There's a significant need across the district. So there is that sticker shock, and let's bring you into the conversation. And then as we go, that funnel gets tighter and tighter and tighter at the specific need on the areas that you share with us of our priority. So I intend for that it will come, and you'll receive that part. When it comes down to if we're really going to be talking about a real decision on a dollar amount and where are those dollars going to go, you would see a draw schedule of when the dollars will be drawn, when the projects would be tackled with the project over that whole 8-year window of time. We're just not at that stage yet.
One thing I will
and I know you may not accept that, but I hope that you'll just give us a little bit of time.
Yeah, all about patience and outcomes driven, definitely outcomes driven results. I think the one response that you said is, I can't speak to the superintendent or how things were handled prior to my tenure, is not enough. That's not good enough. Your job is essentially to onboard and learn what has been done, and then tell the story of how that's moving forward, right? That's a cop-out answer. Your job is to really understand what it got us here and build that transparency for this group, so that we can then make a better informed decision about what are we going to expect long-term, right?
Well, and the answer to that question was the district operated in 5-year capital improvement planning cycles. They looked at the need, had conversations internally, and built out 5-year planning cycles. And those 5-year planning cycles date back to the mid-'80s as the track of what we have in terms of the data that show that. What I'm saying is we didn't have a comprehensive assessment. It's just a route we chose to go this time. We've known that the needs are there in terms of some of the mechanicals. We could choose to attack just the mechanicals, but the reality is if we're going to do wholesale system change, that's not going to be achieved in a single budget year, annual budget cycle. The cost is too great with the other needs across the building. And we wanted to open the conversation up to be just a little bit more broad. But I do believe that the district has had consistent 5-year capital improvement planning cycles dating back almost 40 years.
Hi, I just, backing on her question, it was not answered. What is the total cost to the district for this entire assessment, the phone calls, the postcards that were mailed? What is that costing the district to have that service done?
I don't know that answer. How much did the assessment cost, Mark? I don't have that detail right now. If you email that question to info@duke214, I'll get an answer for you. As for the postcards, we print those in-house, so I'm not sure how much the mailing service costs to mail that to the community, but they were all printed in-house.
It was mailing that was a bit late.
Yeah.
Like I got mine on the 27th.
I understand.
When was the first virtual? 27th.
And then my other question, as far as the cost of this assessment, if it ends up going to around 2, around 3, is the price inclusive for one consultation, no
Yes.
matter how much work they have to put in? I would like that dollar amount.
It is inclusive, and even if we did end up heading toward a referendum and it didn't pass and it was a second referendum or a third, it's inclusive of all of that.
Okay, if you could supply us with that amount.
Sure.
we'd
Please email
appreciate that.
info@d214.org or Patrick Moggy will get you the answer.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
One more question that I didn't have before is, what am I getting for each of the different budget breakouts? So for $400 million, what exactly am I getting and what's being deferred? If I go to 6, what am I getting?
Yes, sir.
And are you gonna add other things in that aren't on the list today, so we're not even gonna get everything that we think we're getting?
That will come when we get to future phases. It will come in terms of if we go with this dollar amount, these are the projects that are.
You should already have that if you're asking for $400 million. How do you know how did you come up with $400 million?
We don't have the prioritization list. If the prioritization list is infrastructure and mechanicals at $390 million, and we go with the $400 million route, that's 1 and 2, that's it. But the prioritization list has to come before we can specify the path forward.
Yeah, you should have had that to come up with $400 million number. I'm sorry, I did a budget for a Fortune 100 company. I'm sorry. You should have all of that now.
But I understand, but we're not to the level of specificity where we're even asking for anything. It's literally a feedback conversation. It's just two-way feedback.
I feel like you used our property tax money against us. A late mailing, a survey is not sufficient. I tried to get on the Zoom meeting, it was last week, this time of day. I could not get on it. I was told some people got onto it. It never worked for us, even though we had the fastest fiber optic internet at home.
I'm sorry that happened.
You had one public meeting, and you are not prepared to tell us the cost of the postcard mailing, the cost of the consultancy, the cost of the survey. The survey is obviously steered to giving you $866 million or more, like is on the screen right now. I'll tell you why this is all coming up right now, because the next school board election, it was just had in April, and the next one's not until April 2027. That's why this is happening now.
Well, all I can tell you is we're not trying to trick anyone. We're trying to have a conversation. I understand why you're saying that, but
I'm gonna file a FOIA.
You're welcome. We have nothing to hide. We'll get you the details of all the information that you're after. We have zero to hide. I just don't have the figure today. Well, I apologize. I apologize that you weren't able to get on that Zoom as well, but we had 125 people on there, and I'm sorry that didn't work for you. I'm glad you could come tonight.
$66 million you can't run a Zoom. It's sufficient for this.
One more question.
Let me just make one comment, right? In terms of honesty and credibility, you indicate that $850 million is way more than you would expect, right? And maybe it'll end up less. But if I look at some of the words that are being used, right? On this screen right now, it says, these are necessary to keep our students and teachers safe, warm, and dry. Everybody wants the students and teachers to be safe, warm, and dry. These are $850 million in needed improvements, not cosmetic, needed. So you're suggesting that this is, by words, the absolute minimum. There is a disconnect. You're leading in the words that you're using, you're leading in the way the survey is constructed, which doesn't instill a sense of honesty.
All right, thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate the feedback and the open dialogue. Wish you all well.